All right. All right.
Okay, good afternoon, good morning, good evening, whatever part of the world you're in. Thank you so much for taking time to join us today. And I actually have the wrong slide up. So Thomas, thank goodness you're taking over with the July slide. It's July, we're halfway through the year. We're really excited. We have some wonderful updates and new projects. And thank you so much for joining us. If you haven't joined our YouTube channel, we do have a great YouTube channel. I'll post that in the chat in just a moment. You can find this replay that'll be available there, and also some of the other ones to be able to learn about the various projects that we're working with. So King's Counsel and Trust Family Office, we're connecting people for one purpose. Let me go ahead and hit the real PowerPoint here. So today you're gonna learn a little bit more about our mission and vision. I see a lot of familiar faces, so I know a number of you are already familiar with what we're doing and a part of our mission and vision. You're going to be getting an update with KCT, King's Counsel and Trust. You'll also be able to meet some of our team members and power partners, learn about some of our current initiatives, learn how to get involved. And one of my favorite parts is also the breakout session at the end. And how many of you have done breakout sessions where you get into the separate rooms and you get to talk and network? We're going to be doing that today. So if for some reason you can't stay into that portion, please let Thomas know in the chat so that we make sure all the rooms are set up, and then we'll do a Q&A at the end. So here's a little bit about our mission and vision. I'll go ahead and be quiet so that you can read that for yourself. So I know that if you're here because you connect with, if not, a portion of this mission and vision, you connect with all of it. And what really excites me about this is this kingdom economy and what Dale has created. So I have the honor of introducing Dale Hewett Collier. He is the founder and managing director. He's also been tagged as a financial futurist. He has been instrumental in coming up with a system that really is recreating wealth and this new global system using, especially in this time of crisis, reinventing private equity as a function of cash flow and so much more. That's just icing on the cake of what he does. So with that, I'll go ahead and turn this over to you, Dale.
Indeed. Welcome everybody today. Yeah, it's amazing. Here we are halfway through the year, and does everybody know what's going on in Washington? Raise a hand. Don't need to say. Okay, maybe half. What if I told you it's unprecedented that we're going to have a turnover? That the man who was in office never really left office. That everything that we know it, at least in my lifetime, I'm just over 50, is going to change. And what if everyone on this line actually had a role in introducing the new generation, the Joshua generation, the new economy, the new fill in the blank? Is that an exciting thing, or does that feel like gloom and doom? I'm just curious. Okay. A few good thumbs up, shaky, good. All right, so you're in the right place today. That said, we've got a really interesting new project on the scene. It's really interesting. Philip's going to share a little bit about it in a little bit, and what's unique about it. And I think it's a good example of just the kind of thing that we're talking about, where you think it's one thing, and then God has a just way of just sneaking in at the right time, the right place with the right people. And you don't see how it's possible. These are the kind of things that are showing up in the here and the now. I'm really excited about that. So we continue to have more and more partners that are coming on to say, look, I don't necessarily have a project, but wait a minute. Yeah, I do. Believe it or not, everybody's actually got a book inside of them. Maybe you've heard that. Well, I'm believing that in the way we do things, everybody's got a project too. I know that God put you here to be an entrepreneur, an intrapreneur, or somepreneur, kingdompreneur, let's just say. And that's the one purpose, his purpose, by God, with God, for God. That's the investment policy. So if we're not doing it that way, I'm wondering, what are we doing exactly? And that's about as effective as rearranging the lawn furniture on the Titanic. Anyway, I'm just totally excited for everyone that continues to kind of show up and offer a piece or perspective or a resource or an idea that someone else might be able to run with. We're getting stuff done in a way that, you would think, with what's going on in the world, that's like, how is anybody getting anywhere with the rate of inflation and all of this geopolitical stuff? But we are. So I don't want to be braggadocious, to God be the glory in all we do. So with that, without wasting a whole lot of time, because we do have a few things to kind of get into the weeds here today, I'd like to introduce some of our next partners. Some of you, if you don't know Family Office already, basic things. The one message, if someone asks you how you're involved, first question I like to ask, do you know what a family office even is? Yes or no? It's one of those things. If you don't know, I say do some homework, go check Wikipedia, good definitions there, really great graphic for those that don't know what that looks like. And when you're done, come back. If you do know, let me just point out that we're different to every other family office in the sense where they have charity or philanthropy in one line, maybe as a part of a mission statement. We're recreating the definition. We've expanded philanthropy to include 5 distinctly different segments besides writing a check. Okay, that doesn't get anything done at the end of the day. It just moves, capital from one bucket to another. Somebody's still got to do something. So what does that look like? This is where we can be an adjunct to other family ministries in the way matriarch, patriarch, where they've gotten to the halftime of their life and they're reorganizing their life so God can spend more of them. See? But how do they do that? Because if they're leaning on a traditional attorney, CPAs, they're not going to find the freedom that they're looking for. I can attest to that, having been one of those licensed dudes a long time ago. Thank God I was set free. And so what's different? What's different is conventional planning. If you've got a will, you've got some type of estate, a partnership, a trust of some form, most of those folks are thinking, all right, what happens when you die? Where does it go? Who gets it and when? The kingdom message, the gospel that Jesus shared with us and got killed for it in the process, showing up as an atheist and amongst his own people, was about the kingdom is here and the now. You don't have to wait until you die. You see, so instead of charitable remainder trust planning, this is charitable living trust. What does that look like? You don't have to wait until you die, you see. And what we're suggesting to you is this is far more than just substantial. This is much, much more than just a head issue. This is mostly a heart issue. This is going to tap your core beliefs like you've never experienced if you haven't leaned in just yet, because it's going to challenge everything you believe to be true, that you know, how you live, what you work for, why you work. But if you're ready to have a taste of it, I suggest come on in, the water's fine. So without getting too far down the hole, let me just suggest that you can live your legacy while you're very much alive. I would suggest that you won't do it alone. You're going to do it in great company. Our goal here is that you have a safe harbor with which to share, where you can't talk to your partner, your spouse, your kids, your investors, your stakeholders, stockholders, or otherwise. Because we're not holding our hands out for an hourly fee or a retainer in this case. Come share. You might just find you're not alone. Leadership doesn't have to be alone, especially with this walk, because Jesus never sent them out one by one. It was always a 2 by 2. There's those days that we fall down, somebody else can give us a hand up and vice versa. It's not a contract, it's a vow. This is a covenant type of relationship that we're looking for. If that's you, welcome today. Thank you for leaning in. With that, I'd like to introduce some of the team we've got coming up. Right hand, you've maybe known him now for more than a decade. He came in and was looking to challenge this idea of Christianity. And then he read pagan Christianity and everything changed his life from there. I'd like to introduce up next on the docket, my right hand, otherwise known as the help desk, and a really altogether great guy, Doesn't like the humidity too much. Thomas Richter, would you mind just, are you up, Thomas, somewhere? There you go. And a couple of words from you, sir, while people read a little bit about you if they don't already know.
All right, thank you, Dale.
Sure.
Before I start, I just want to mention to everybody that we do have a hard stop at the top of the hour. So I want to be sensitive to the time, and if someone will remind me if we're running late, someone please hit me in chat windows, reminding me of the time. But anyway, as Dale said, I've been around for a bit over 10 years. I did read Pagan Christianity, and it really caused me to rethink and start asking questions. Do I really believe what I've been raised to believe? Raised in the Baptist traditions, not that that was a bad thing, but it was pretty much a check all the boxes, and once you get saved, best of luck to you, work it out. And so I had very much the Lone Ranger mentality. My father was self-employed, my brothers are self-employed, I've been self-employed. I don't know how to do anything other than that, but what I have come to realize is that if you're gonna do something that's kingdom-minded, you can't do it alone. It's a we thing, it's not a me thing. And so with that, if you're here and you're looking for a family to collaborate with, if you're tired of being all alone, this is I think a good place for you to lean in, find out, do you have, what do you have to give and contribute to this community? It's not what can I take away from the community. You'll get plenty from the community, but in this particular journey, if we understand the kingdom for what it is, it's give and receive, and all these things will be added unto you. And oftentimes we think that we don't have anything to give. I would just admonish you that if you think of giving as to how much money do you have in your wallet, we don't care what you have in your wallet. We're more interested in what you have in your heart, and do you have your heart and your head connected? And if so, you'll come to learn that whatever that you do have, and probably the most valuable thing that you have outside of your time, is who do you know and who do you need to know? And we know lots of people, so we just welcome you to the call here today, and I'll stop there. Rui, I think, is on the call. Rui, do you want to give a quick overview of your experience thus far in the year that you've been with us?
Across the pond. Nice.
Thanks, Tom. Well, good afternoon, everybody. Good to see a lot of you here again today. Yeah, I've been around KCT now for just a tad over 18 months. And why did I come along? Well, the pitch that I heard about intrigued me. How to do things differently and still achieve the same business objectives, but taking a more scenic route to get to the end game. And having been a corporate executive for 44 years of my career, and I retired in Feb 17, I thought, okay, this is something new to come and try. So let's get on with it. And I haven't looked back. What I like is the governance behind the process that Dale's created. What I like is the camaraderie, the respect, the integrity that people have. What I like about KCT is the frankness. Don't be afraid to ask for anything. Don't be afraid to say anything. If you don't know, raise your hand and then sit down, because folks are going to come running to help you. Now, Dale, I said run, remember that. And
Thank you, Rui.
folks,
Well,
thanks.
yeah, I was going to say what Rui said there, I think, is really impactful. This is a safe place. If you don't feel safe here, then we've missed the mark. And if we've missed the mark, we need to be held accountable to that. So thank you for that, Rui. David, I'm going to give you a moment here or two, and then Shannon, if you're still here, you're going to follow.
Oh, thank you, Thomas, and good to see you again, really. Always a pleasure, especially that elephant. Anyway, I've been involved with KCT for a number of years. Most recently, the last 3 years or so, but I've known Dale for many years, and I've known Shannon for even longer. I love the fact that working within the King's Counsel ministry is that we get to impact people's lives, and when we are doing something to actually make a difference in this world and creating an alternate way of doing things, and that's how good I feel about it. And I always like to mention that I call Dale my spiritual mentor. He calls me the old man because I'm quite a bit older than he is. I don't look it, I know, but anyhow. But I welcome you all here. I think I know everybody except maybe one or two people. So good to see you all on the call. Thank you.
Thanks, David. Shannon, are you still with us or not? She may have dropped off already. So Larry Tyler. Well, first of all, everyone's seen Shannon. She's our consistent host of these discussions. If we have any technical problems here today, you're looking at the person who's responsible for those technical problems. Larry Tyler is also leadership team personnel. He's been around a long time. I don't think Larry's on the call here today, but Larry is also known as the cash flow whisperer. He basically is a reformed and recovering banker, and he lives in North Carolina. I met him a number of years ago in Panama. So that's pretty much the team as it is right now.
Thomas, if you could check your audio, it might have unplugged. You got an echo there.
Is that any better? Well, it's not for me. Dale, I'm going to turn it over to you to handle the slides here, and then I'll try to take care of the audio problem here.
Take it away, brother Dale.
Actually, I don't have it, Thomas. It's on your desktop.
Well, I'll jump in and see what damage I can do. If we're up, the video, I mean, the audio is huge background echo. Does everybody have that? Are you experiencing that?
Yeah, I do.
Everybody's got a serious echo.
Yes.
So
Let me do this, David. I'm going to jump off. I'm going to make you the host, and I'll try to just jump back in.
okay. Well, folks, while we're waiting for Thomas to get the audio fixed on his end, and hopefully, and now I've lost that slide. I don't have the share my screen either. So we're just going to play the little game of, hi, everybody, how's it going?
Actually, no, I'd like to redeem the time because I don't know where it's going to go, but it's a new thing while we're waiting. Philip, I'm not sure if you've got a show and tell, but without the show, can you do a short little tell for us? You've got something unique enough, covert enough to infiltrate an area right here we call home. Is that a possibility?
Yeah, I can jump in. First of all, thank you guys for having me. It's nice to meet you all. My name is Phil. I am a pastor in Utah, 30 minutes west of Salt Lake City in a county called Tooele County. I'm also a church planter. We started our church here 3 years ago. And, we're in the heart of Mormonism, being in Utah. And when we started the church, one thing I've learned in my 20 years here is if you're trying to actually reach LDS people, you need to be in a building. So right out of the gate, we rented a building and started our church. And there were only two places to meet. One was a strip mall, which will be important in a minute. We've been at it for 3 years. Before we go any further, I'm actually a farm kid from Canada. So Dale occasionally uses analogies that I've heard him on farming, and in my head, sometimes I agree, and other times I go, I don't think he knows what he's talking about. But yeah, anyway, all joking aside, we've been here for 3 years. Our church is called Lakeview Church. We launched just in time to experience a world in this crazy media frenzy of COVID. And we've grown to about 300 people in 3 years. We launched a second campus in the next town over, in Grantsville. We've baptized 41 people, and 50% of our church are new believers since we started it. Now, that has been exciting. We've watched God just break through people's hearts, and we're seeing LDS people get saved left and right. It's really exciting and special. But the problem with reaching LDS people, they've been burned by the church and they're not great tithers. So that presented a problem with our church going, okay, how do we become sustainable? How do we keep moving forward? And if you've been in Utah at all and you've watched the LDS church do what they do, every little podunk small town, they have a multi-million-dollar building in, and it's not funded by their tithers because they have an incredible business model. And ever since I've been in Utah, I've been intrigued by that. The very first church I worked at was across the street from Coca-Cola Swire, which, if you're not familiar, is owned by the LDS church. So that got me thinking about it and saying, well, what if the church started a for-profit side, jumped into the marketplace, created a second revenue stream to fund the Great Commission? So our church is a Great Commission church. We believe that that was a decree that the king gave us, and it's not optional. But funding it based on tithes and offerings with a new believing church didn't seem possible. On top of that, more recently, I've felt Jesus lay on my heart that we're heading into a season where tithes and offerings are not going to be as plentiful, especially in our blue collar community. So now I'm here bringing back the place we're meeting in is a strip mall, and realizing that, well, what if we bought the strip mall and leased it out, use the tenants that are in there currently to help fund the Great Commission? And this idea was kind of born, and I initially started seeking out Christian businessmen to invest in it, and they would start an LLC and own them all and give the church a discount. That was the idea. And then I met Jeff Borglund, and he shared some other ideas with me and got me to a place where I thought, well, what if we owned the strip mall? And out of that idea was birthed a number of meetings, a lot of connections with a few attorneys and tax accountants, and Jeff and Dale and Thomas and a few of my friends across the country, to say there's actually a lot more we could do here if we realize that we're not limited to the church building. And our church has decided that we're pursuing a for-profit side, entering into the marketplace that starts with us just owning strip malls and being a strip mall church. Wherever we plant one, it'll be involved in a strip mall, and we'll use the tenant's lease to fund the business end of the church, developing assets and funding some liabilities, but allowing our tithes and offerings going to strictly in ministry, where the business revenue will go towards funding our projects which include some crazy ideas, but very viable, even as far as owning a farm in whatever county we're in to help feed the people that live in the county, but not a welfare state. They pay for entry to the farm and they get to pick their food. So an entry fee versus a grocery store. So those are some of the ideas in a nutshell. That's what we're doing. But we're a church that recognizes that the funding model of tithes and offerings will still play a part, but we can jump into the marketplace. And the coolest thing that I've witnessed since jumping into this is there's a number of Christians within my own circles who have been excited because they're like, hey, I've never really felt like I fit in being a kids volunteer or an usher or a music person, but I've got gifts and skills in this areas, and this is a neat way I can participate. And watching people come out of the woodwork to help us work on this project has been pretty exciting. So we're at the beginning of it. The most we've done is we've leased out our lobby to another business, which is a coffee shop, which keeps our church busy all week long with very little work on my end, and they pay us to be there. So it's been pretty fantastic. That's us in a nutshell.
I appreciate that, Phil. Thank you so much for sharing. And why I'm so excited is for this opportunity, because I see this potentially as a franchise prototype where anywhere USA, rest of the world, where someone is hungry, I got to eat. I don't know about you. And if you can't grow yourself, you can have a relationship with someone that does. And we still need to do other things. So why not have a multi-use shared property approach? That really starts to look like, with common ownership and stewardship, more appropriately, the Book of Acts in the modern day. Regardless of scale, that seems where, it's, especially for a woman, what has made strip malls especially so popular, the ones that thrive, is the developers were smart enough to pay attention to their user base, because most folks that frequent those spaces, if it's not the anchors, it's usually someone that is familiar with the local area, that during their lunch hour, they can get this done and this done and this done and this done in one location, and not have to keep getting in their car back and forth all over town. It's that type of an integrated approach that really speaks to the sustainability of the, not just the tenant mix, but also the user mix and the dependency and the ebb and the flow, as it were, of people just doing everything they normally do in fulfilling their needs. So we're about to flush that out and put them in front of our Prado group, the asset pool number 3. That's the $25 million and less type program. A little bit more on that in just a second. Thomas can give us an update. But we've recently, perfected an instrument to that effect, whereby any stakeholder, not just in Phillips Camp, but for any of our projects, for as little as $5,000, basically stake with the upside potential, secured, I might add, with precious metals, for as much as $150,000 that would come back after a year and a day. For anyone that's staking right now in any of the decentralized exchanges, let me just pause on that. How well's your staking currency do? If it's Ethereum, I know that you're upside down and you can't get out. What if staking in this sense, as we suggested, actually had a precious metals component? How much different could that be for someone that's risk averse, doesn't have a clue of what's going on in the world right now, or any of the markets, because they're all taking a hit? We really think that Philip's got something special here. So before we depart from it and go to AP, based on what you heard for Philip, and any questions for that type of a model, and who wants one in their neighborhood first? I'm just curious. Okay, Debbie, all right, you're up. You got a question? You're muted.
I've heard of having the coffee shops in the churches, but I've never heard of the churches having the coffee shop before. And I think that's really brilliant, because like in Cocoa Beach, which is the town right there, there's a whole bunch of coffee shops that are closed in the evenings where they could help the churches. So I really like that.
Yeah. The idea that a building has to be 9 to 5, it's bad enough, because for the church model, it's only open one day a week. Maybe a Tuesday or a Wednesday. I mean, come on, really? But to be able to have a 24/7 type of facility, that really gets exciting now. Throw a gym in there and everybody else that has to work weird hours. Now you're talking that something that could really work. So thank you, Debbie. Anyone else with a question or maybe a comment to share on the model? And
yeah, I'll share, because I've visited this church twice. So first of all, really weird to be in a church in a strip mall, but fantastic. And those of you that don't know about Utah, the numbers that Phil gave, if you're in any other state, you put another 0 on the end of it, that's the amount of success that they've had. So when they say they have 300 people coming in 3 years, that's equivalent to 3,000 people coming in Florida, for instance. When they say they have 41 baptisms, that's equivalent to 410 baptisms, because the numbers are so small in Utah for Kingdom that the perspective just needs to be understood. We went to Phil's group and watched them do a 6-person baptism. It was the greatest celebration we've ever seen for 6 people. I mean, our church in Michigan does 200 at a time, and everybody does, I mean, everybody's happy, but the celebration that happened out there for these lives that were lost and now are found, I'm behind him and everything that he
Wow.
does, because it's just really, really powerful. We got to witness it, we got to see it.
That's cool, Jeff. Thanks for sharing. I had no idea that from a scalar perspective, it was that different. So thank you for sharing. Anyone else? We've got another update coming. Once, twice. Oh, Nadine, you got your hand up there.
Thanks, Dale. I've seen this model before in Illinois, back when I was out there, and they utilize whatever services are needed for the community. So like a barber shop or a beauty salon, a thrift store for clothing. These were the businesses that were in the shopping center that the church also taught trades in these careers. They had a gym. I'm glad you mentioned that. It wasn't a 24/7 mega gym, but it was open till, I think they stayed open till 10 o'clock. But the best part was that the residents of the community could utilize those businesses and then be exposed to the church as well. So it improved their membership.
Very cool. Thanks for
It's
sharing.
it's a great model.
Well, we'll keep you posted. We're just getting started with Philip. And because, at the end of the day, first and foremost, he's there to serve people, and that doesn't stop. So on call can be challenging at times. Nevertheless, Thomas, care to give us an update with the asset pool scenarios with the Prado Group? Are you back online? How's your sound?
Well, you have to tell me whether or not the audio is better.
So far,
You
yes.
hear me? Okay. Well, I say, I don't know if I've got a technology problem in computer or problem in user. I think I know what the answer is. And so Rui, you can keep your mouth shut on that one. The Prado Group, as Dale said, it's a unique opportunity that King's Counsel and Trust has a relationship with. This actually is born out of another initiative that King's Counsel and Trust helped stand up, goodness, 6 years ago. First started as the Goodness and Mercy Unlimited, which was primarily a desire to work with church leaders, primarily in the United States. What we found, and this is not a criticism of you, Phil, because you're clearly the difference. Most pastors are not CEOs. They don't think like CEOs. Phil happens to be a CEO who happens to be a pastor. And so the business model that Phil just described to you is essentially the business model and opportunity that was presented to GM&U many, many years ago. That was rebranded to the International Silver Dollar Association, and it's since been rebranded to the internet or to the icobest.org, which is a global initiative. And so while King's Counsel and Trust has found favor with people like Phil and Jeff and Rui and all the people who are on this call, Marigold, using our relationship royalty agreement as a financing tool, royalty financing. Now we have someone with resources who says, we also like your model. So what can you do to help bring us deal flow? Because we have a lot of resources that we want to put into and stimulate global GDP. So as Dale already mentioned, we have a staking program that I think is quite unique. It's pretty straightforward. I'll try to say it as simply as I can. If you have a project or know somebody who has a project, and let's just say they need $1 million, what Prado is asking for using our intake form from King's Counsel and Trust. So if you want to partner with, if you want to co-invest with King's Counsel and Trust, we've already been given a green light because again, Prado is using our intake forms. What that means is that you'll have to have a 2-page executive summary. You'll have to have a 5-minute or less compelling video, to essentially talk about who you are, what you're doing, where you're doing it, why you're doing it. Your why is really, really important. This has to be to stimulate GDP. But the opportunity is if you need $1 million and you can come to the table with a 3% stake, meaning that they need to know that you have skin in the game. It's not a lot of skin in the game, just 3%. So if you need $1 million, you'll be able to probably do that math in your head. That means you have to have $30,000 that you're willing to part with in addition to your executive summary, demonstrating that you're prepared to receive a multiplier effect, because what they're going to do is they're going to take that $30,000, they're going to multiply that. So your $30,000 stake becomes $1 million. And the distribution of that $1 million is projected to be, our staking position now is in the third quarter here of this year. And then in January, assuming that you're approved and you've been vetted and you've got the green light, you will receive a distribution of 10% of your $1 million for 10 consecutive months. So distributions are effective January on $1 million, $100,000 January, February, on through October. And that's a pretty, I think, pretty straightforward way to describe the opportunity. Now, this particular AP3 is for projects $25 million or less. If you happen to have a project that exceeds $25 million, you're still in the game, but you're going to have to come up with a little bit more skin, which you're going to go from 3% to 5%. So a 5% staking, that's for projects from 25 million up to 500 million. And anybody who has a project over 500 million up to $5 billion, you'll need to have a 7% stake. So that's essentially the three current staking positions: 3% for projects under 25, 5% for projects under 500, 7% for projects under 5 billion. Questions? Comments, Dale?
Just some whipped cream for that. This was designed originally to be an institutional play. The concession that we have is basically to give the church, the little guy, a chance for a lot less money. Our assessment scoring system, as some of you already know, is a 1% stake with the founders. So it's not intended to be a one-person initiative as much as does the team believe in what they're doing. So we're really excited about that. We get to teach the test for anyone that wants to opt into us. We will do the due diligence and we will oversee the administration for the ongoing relationship and royalty, redemptive and distribution operations for the oncoming, 7 to 10 years thereafter. So one way or the other, we're really excited that yet another institution has picked us up to make their job of finding the best of the best better. And just to be able to share with you guys that you get a chance in history to kind of, ride on our coattails, paint by number, as it were. And I might add, we got better odds of getting financed than if you applied to Shark Tank. Just saying. I mean, every 40,000 applicants, they select less than 1%. And not everyone that makes it to the show gets financed, as many of you may know. So I don't know what you're doing, but in terms of your strategy to get in front of a lot of, I'll just say, eyeballs or put butts in chairs, please, you might want to consider this one as an addition to what you're already doing, not in lieu of, but in addition, and give us a chance to show you how that works a little bit more closely. At the end, we'll follow up with a link to kind of contact us, fill it out, and or a poll for more information. So with that, let's see.
I'm going to attempt to try to do breakout rooms here, Dale. In the event that this gives me a problem, then I think we perhaps want to stay on the subject and maybe discuss a little bit more about the Prado group in that opportunity, because I think it deserves, more time. But I'm going to try to open up the rooms for a breakout, trying to get 3 to 4 people per room. Figured there's going to be 2 minutes each for y'all to kind of share, who you are, what you're looking for, and please have a timekeeper. The room will be set up such that at the end of the 10 minutes, you'll all get kicked out and you'll come back into the group here. So
do 2.5 minutes each for 10 minutes.
It's 2.5 minutes each.
Yep.
And as I'm looking at this is not going to work because it's got everybody in one gigantic room, and that's not what I want. So I'm not going to do that. All right, so I'm not given an opportunity to get more than, I can only get one room assignment here, so apologize for that. So we'll kind of wing it here. I guess maybe some more questions about the Prado group. And while we're taking those questions, I'm going to attempt to make the poll and see if I have some success on our poll settings here. But who else has a question? Raise your hand or speak up about the Prado group for those who have projects. And bear in mind, you don't have to have a project yourself. You may know somebody who has a project. So your Rolodex,
I have
who you
a
know,
question.
is just as important to us. Go ahead.
Go ahead, Dave.
How are the funds being provided? Is it a debt equity? I just had a $35 million LOI waiting on financials, debt-based, waiting on financials from a Wall Street guy. And 4 weeks later, the financials are not together. So I'm not putting any more energy into waiting for him. So I'd love to hear, this is like, with $72 million of real estate available to back a loan. So you guys, are you offering debt? Is part of it offering debt, equity, or both?
Either.
Again, it's the relationship royalty sharing covenant.
Okay,
So again,
all right, I see. Okay.
Anytime you're talking relationship royalty sharing covenant, this is a non-debt, non-equity. It's a royalty financing, David.
Okay, so it's not a third-party vendor. This is something KCB's doing in-house. Okay.
Yeah, we're basically writing the instruments, and this is, make no mistake, this is a cash flow exercise. So for example, while the program sounds good, if there's a large acquisition on the front end of any mobilization, let's face it, if that first tranche doesn't cover that, this type of a program might not be suitable, if that makes sense. So with large real estate acquisition, for example, large manufacturing, plant, equipment, any type of major upfront purchase, if that's going to exceed what the first of the 10 tranches of that distribution would otherwise look like, probably not going to be a good fit, which is why we want to really examine the cash flow and the use of funds really, really closely to make sure that, if that's not going to work, what else could there work? I'm not saying it's yes or no. It could be something else, David. In this case, make no mistake, we're not doing the debt equity. We've been able to demonstrate that the royalty approach, the GDP, the top line cash approach is the better way to go. Because at the end of the day, equity, in the early stages of a company, there is no profits. So you're going to die on the vine if you're looking for cash. If you're looking for income, but your income doesn't outpace inflation, well, that's not going to work either. We're just saying with the royalty approach, there's a built-in, as it were, hedge against inflation because people are going to spend whatever they need to spend on whatever it is. So as long as value is being created, and we are creating a supplementary white paper series to this effect, because what we found is a lot of folks, while they may understand the notion of royalty, how that applies to something other than, say, music, arts, entertainment, is not obvious. So you, David, in mining can appreciate that. Oil and gas, very popular. But in other types of monetization of intellectual property, personal property, we're very much pushing the limits of what's possible, particularly with NFTs and other type of bridges to the cryptocurrency. We don't want to leave anyone behind, but we certainly don't want to end up in the metaverse either. That doesn't look good. This is much more of a hybrid type of approach. And hopefully I didn't lose anyone in that little discourse.
Before we switch over to fielding a question from James Gibson, I should also let you know that there is a sweet spot for Prado. Again, this is a global initiative, but rest assured, they're not pumping money into North Korea and China. They have a sweet spot in the United States, essentially west or east of the Mississippi and south of I-40. Now, that doesn't mean that King's Counsel and Trust investment policy is as narrow as defined as what I just stated from Prado. But again, Prado has tremendous resources available. Again, they are using KCT's intake form. And if you co-vest with us, our investment policy is larger and wider than Prado when it impacts the United States, where we will work in industries that perhaps Prado says, no, we're not going to go in that particular direction. So Phil, don't be disheartened knowing that you're in Utah, that's not outside of KCT's interest to see, reformation in that part of the country. So James Gibson, unmute yourself and ask your question, please.
Absolutely. I just wanted to make a brief mention. I'm only needing something from the DocuSign to get really rolling here, but a lot of what I'm hearing today, my company can actually help a lot to kind of bring home. Combining with King's Counsel and the way that you guys are doing business and everything, I have a lot of resources from building materials to technologies and planning and strategies that a lot of people are asking questions and looking for that solution. And it's really eating at me because I'm like, I have so many solutions. So I'm raring to go. My whole team is just frothing at the mouth to get started and cannot wait for it. So yeah, anything I can do to help out because we have a lot of resources as far as, particularly how to reduce your costs while maximizing your monetary gain. And so that's why we always make that joke that, we call it Catalyst Enterprises for a reason. If you have all your elements and you're not getting the right reaction, add a little catalyst.
Thank you, James. I know I owe you the e-sign docs and instructions to get started. I'll just put you on the spot. If you could be prepared next month to give a 4 or 5 minute overview of some of what you have going on. I know you just started with one project, but I just would like to invite you to come back next month and do a little show and tell. You never really know who's here, but we'd like to hear from you and your team at that time as well.
Absolutely. Any projects I can help with, I'm more than happy.
Very good. Thanks very much.
I'm going to launch a poll while we spend the next few minutes again, kind of recapping and fielding additional questions on Prado or again on Lakeview. So anyone else have a question?
David, I think you maybe I saw your light once or twice, David Newby. Anything else to add?
Yeah, I was gonna ask, I'm looking at bringing in $1 million to $2 million for our crypto gold mining venture in the near future here. What would be the timeline to stake 300,000, 500,000 of that towards a 10 million? What does the process look like?
The shortest, I'll just say quickest to finish line is basically, it looks like about a 30-day engagement, knowing if you know that you've got everything, because the two big submittals right out of the gate are going to be the 2-pager and the video. The video thing is the new thing. That's why we're bringing it up this time, because other folks have been thinking, well, it's mostly a lot of written supplemental due diligence and the like. Well, that's important, but this is a new twist because we're looking to streamline that. So shouldn't be too difficult to get done in a month. We do need a commitment insofar as the asset pool 3 is concerned by the end of August. This is as we close out the summer, then we start due diligence going into the fall so that we get ready for January go time. So in some of what you've got going, it's pretty straightforward. So I think, anywhere from the 1 to 3 month engagement could be more than sufficient in terms of getting started and getting things wrapped up for the year.
Okay, so you guys are looking at really starting to do the funding in January 22?
January 23.
Yeah, according to that program, it doesn't mean that there's not other things in between now and then. Just to let you know, we're already invested in other areas, but that's going to be on a case-by-case basis. This is just talking about the asset pool 3 program of Prado at the moment. And like I said, there is a precious metals principal protection mechanism for those that feel the need to exercise that. In your case, I think that's what you're also bringing, is it not?
Yeah, we have an option on a $1 billion gold mine, possible reserves of 12 billion, probable reserves of 12 billion. Yeah,
Probable. Okay.
yeah, but the billion is proven. So yeah, I'm looking at bringing in a million or two. I just got off the phone with a guy in Dubai whose sister is number 2 at Apple, and he used to advise the SEC on crypto for 6 years. So it's good to have someone who can address political security concerns as well as other factors. But yeah, he was. I'm looking at for a couple of people, doing a first 10 million raise, and then we're actually going to form our own commodity bank. So that's like a new wrinkle since we last talked.
Great, good to hear. given the rate things are going, we may need other resources just like that. So, anyone else? Last minute questions, hands. Thank you for the poll. More information. David, if you've got, looks like you did on the contact us, that's just simply a drop down, knowing more information about becoming a partner, getting more involved in a project, become an advisor, a mentor, a co-investor in one or more projects. If I could, I'd like to call out, we've just got a couple minutes left and we do have a hard stop to jump. Kevin Carlton, you're on the line, I think by telephone, it looks like. Based on what you heard here, and I don't know, maybe real estate wise, some of what you're doing in Missouri, do you think there could be potential collaboration with who you know? I won't mention them, nationwide, but with what Philip has going on?
Absolutely. Can you hear me?
Yeah, loud and clear.
Yeah, we've been really excited about the progress we've made over the last 2 or 3 weeks with Counsel and some of the financing options. We're pretty hopeful we're going to go somewhere. We're right in the midst of due diligence on a lot of things with you guys and with the finance groups. And we're pretty hopeful that what we're doing here in the Branson, Missouri area is going to get some traction with you guys.
Very good. Thank you, sir. Looking forward to making the intro. Philip, just remember that name, Kevin Carlton. He didn't mention it, but I'll just say it. He's one of their go-to consults for the entire Assemblies of God when they have problems in, I'll just say, disaster in construction and development and other things like that. This is a guy who knows people, and he's been around. So we've got to know. Robert Bailey, good to see you here. I know you've got some creative solutions as well. Thank you for showing up again here today. Care to offer or inquire?
Yeah, I'm listening, which is unusual for me. And I'm grateful because I'm taking notes and listening and trying to figure out where I fit in here. I think my big idea on this, which is, would take time, and it's a discussion we haven't really had yet, but I'd love to see if we can explore the idea of taking care of people's insurance claims in metals, particularly on, this would lead, because I'm getting introduced, I'm in Palm Beach County, and so it's almost inevitable if I just keep my head above water that I'll run into people with a lot of money. And they will, there are people that are very curious about alternative solutions to what they see as problems. And a lot of what you're talking about, I think, would appeal to them. You said some things that alluded to something that I'm finding. There are people that I'm very direct, so I have to give you the warning. There are people that I really have gotten to the point I can't stand being around, and I am so interested. And I talked to my wife about this too. I'm so much more interested in being around people who are faithful. I'm just more, and people, and then I've got those people. They think, well, you're supposed to be around people so you can introduce them to Christ. I know that, but I prefer to be around people who are more mellow and have a moral compass and so forth. So I'm very grateful for this, and I'm happy to speak to any of you who are interested in the kinds of solutions that I'm working in now, which are very carefully structured, mostly life insurance and so forth. But I'm really interested in incorporating what you're talking about here into that through some very major carriers also. I mean, I think they would be open to conversations at a pretty high level.
Fantastic. Thank you, sir. Rory Thomas, mental note there. I do believe that there's an alternative, I'll just say, mutual type of cooperative carrier solution available. We want to make a note to meet with Robert offline. So with that, I think we'll take one more curious. Veronica Jones, you're back. What's going on in 2 minutes or less? And Thomas, if you could, while we're waiting, if you wouldn't mind putting up the next dates to show in the background so folks can mark off their calendars. Go ahead, Veronica. You're muted if you can hear us.
I can hear you, thanks. I was trying to get this all worked out. Hi, everybody. So good to see you and grateful to be here. There's a combination of things happening. I did want to say, my goodness, I think it was Philip who mentioned the church that was launching in Salt Lake. Was that correct? So I lived in Salt Lake, and actually, I don't know if you're familiar with the Callister law firm, Callister something. And so it was like, well, I knew Lou Callister and his wife who recently passed away, Ellen. And so I definitely think that I wanted to at least throw in a possibility of to refer them to you, but ultimately just really kicked up some interesting memories working there and living there. But what I'm up to, I actually was introduced recently to a sovereign group who is looking to put their property up for collateral, and in the tune of about maybe 3 million. And then I have some other projects focused on the ERC, the Employee Retention Credit, and really adding value and giving back to churches and nonprofits, especially, as well as small businesses under 500 W-2 employees and less. So that's the mission and the vision. Great to see Jim Digert, and much love to everyone. Really looking forward to getting plugged in and staying connected.
Great.
Appreciate it, Dale and Shannon.
Very good. Thank you, Veronica. All right. Just I'm not sure what happened to the dates. Just make sure I think it's the first Tuesday of every month. And we've got one of these generals. If someone's at all interested in what you're doing, you're just learning about King's Counsel, not to sound like an MLM, you don't have to know it, explain it. Just come with me to one of these things in the same way you got registered here. Bring them, introduce them, let them get the chance to meet some of the partners, the projects. James, you're up next month in terms of a little present. I have no idea what James is up to, but we're about to learn in the next month. And for everyone that is here, can't thank you enough for showing up today. If there's any interest at all, August is the end of August, right around the corner. Please, at least lean in, get an appointment with us to learn more about this asset pool opportunity, because candidly, I don't know if after next year, it's going to still be around. We think that there's going to be a new economic system. It's not what the new the Great Reset is leaning towards. There's a number of countries that are pulling back and looking to do something else. The BRICS and what they stood for in an altogether different SWIFT are reemerging in a healthy fashion. And we have a role in that. But we got to carry that on offline. So thank you all and your participation. Again, I appreciate you for your inquiries and questions. And Philip, welcome aboard, sir. James, welcome aboard. And we'll see you shortly, if not on our next Power Partners meetings right away. David.
1 10-second thing. If you know how to save the chat, there's a lot of links in there that you can gather more information about what's going on, when meetings are coming up, how we do business and that sort of stuff. So just the little 3 buttons at the bottom of the chat where you do write, just click on that. It'll give you a chance to save the chat. Have a great month, folks. God bless you all. I really appreciate you coming to the meeting today. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
All right.